Good morning everyone. I'm Vincent Legros, Marketing Officer at Mercator Ocean International, and I am pleased to welcome you to this third WEkEO online training dedicated on climate data products. First, I would like to share some numbers with you. So during the registration, we could see there is a global interest in Earth observation. We had more than 250 registrations coming from 57 different countries. So as you can see on the chat bottom right of your screen, there is people coming from Greece, Belgium, Hong Kong, Italy. So welcome everyone. As well, you could express your interest in the registration concerning the Copernicus core service data and satellite products. We could see that almost 40% of you, the registrants, express an interest for all the Copernicus core service data and satellite products, and 85% expressed an interest of at least 2 Copernicus core service data. So it means that WEkEO is a tool needed in the Earth observation community. So let me introduce you the agenda and the lecturers of this today webinar session. We will begin with Fabrice Messal with an overview of the DIAS WEkEO platform. Then Laia Romero will do the introduction of the WEkEO product offer. We will continue with Joana Miguens. She will do the introduction of the cloud processing environment. Then Chris Stewart will do the introduction of the Jupyter Hub environment and will present the Jupyter Notebook, Jupyter Notebook exercises dedicated to climate data products. At the end of this session, we will have a question and answer part where Marta Bertrand will be the moderator. So quickly, the basic rules for you, the participants. So this is a training, so ask as many questions as you need to ask using the chat bottom right of your screen. And then during the Q&A session, Marta will display the most relevant question and the expert will answer. So don't forget to add the gray question mark where you type your question, okay? Then about the workshop, so there is 3 rounds. We are in round 1, this is the webinar session, and then you will have until the 3rd of December practical homework session with dedicated Jupyter notebooks, tutorial videos, and the possibility to ask questions to experts. And then the 3rd of December, a debriefing session where the expert will come back to your question asked during the practical homework. And of course, it will allow you to ask questions live. So for this training, we built a dedicated Jupyter Hub, and we had to register some of you who were not registered to WEkEO yet, and Joana will explain you during your presentation how to reset your password. That's it for me. I will give the floor to Marta, the moderator, and she will introduce the first lecturer. Enjoy your webinar. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Vincent, for this introduction. Now we are going to see the overview of the DIAS WEkEO with Fabrice. Good morning, Fabrice.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fabrice Messal. I'm training officer at Mercator Ocean International, and I will give you a presentation of an overview of the WEkEO DIAS service. I recorded my video, so I'll let you watch the video and see you during the question and answer session. Overview of the WEkEO DIAS service. So what is WEkEO? WEkEO is the EU Copernicus DIAS. Through the website wekeo.eu, WEkEO offers a single access point to a large amount of data from Copernicus and Sentinel program, and tools to process this data. What can you get from WEkEO? You can access to all the original Copernicus and Sentinel data. As you must know, Copernicus is a European Earth observation program. So WEkEO gives access to all marine, atmospheric, climate, and land data produced in the frame of Copernicus, such as satellite observation data, in-situ observation data, or model data. WEkEO provides you computational resources, among which a Jupyter Lab or the cloud processing environment. Free trials are available to test computational resources and virtual machines. APIs are available to help you accessing the data. You can meet the experts through an efficient user support. And in the near future, you will be able to showcase your work and promote it through a marketplace. To summarize, WEkEO is a single access point to all Copernicus and Sentinel data, a platform with processing resources and tools, with an expert user support. Which data are available on WEkEO? You can access to Sentinel-1, 2, 3, and 5P data, and data from the Copernicus services, like the Copernicus Atmospheric Monitoring Service, Copernicus Climate Change Service, the Copernicus Marine Service, and the Copernicus Land Service. So why using the WEkEO platform? There is a lot of reason to use a DIAS platform in your daily job, to be close to the data, the processing resources available, etc. But the three main assets of WEkEO are: first, the data are not a copy. Thanks to its infrastructure, WEkEO provides a direct access to up-to-date data and metadata and documentation from the original sources. Sometimes when you copy data, you can have a bad surprise with delays and the content you expect. But with WEkEO, you are directly plugged to the sources and you can access data in a timely way. Secondly, the harmonized data access. It's a REST-based single protocol which connects you to data without extra steps, such as downloading unnecessary data or adapting your codes. You have just to request the data you need through a command lines in your own processing environment. Thirdly, the high level of expertise from the user support. Because WEkEO is built by EUMETSAT, ECMWF, and Mercator Ocean, which have a lot of experience in the Earth observation data and the Copernicus program. So their experts can bring to you years of expertise through the WEkEO support. So if you want to access the data, you have two plans. The Essential plan, which is free. The Essential plan gives you access to the catalog of data, the Jupyter Lab, and the support. The Advanced plan, which is a paid plan starting at €66 per month. With the Advanced plan, you have access to the content of the Essential plan, plus access to virtual machines, processing tools, and coming soon, the possibility to do free networking. More detail about the pricing, if you want to apply the Advanced plan. We have different t-shirt size offer with different price depending the number of virtual machines, the storage, or the RAM you need. You can get free trials for some of them. We are also implementing a pay-as-you-go plan where you only pay what you are using. To summarize what you can do with the WEkEO platform. For free, you can search and download the data in compliance with the Copernicus data policy. For free, you can register, and once you are registered, you can process the data on the Jupyter Lab. Interact with the user, support is for free. And if you need, you can have access to computational resources, but this is for charge. A short intro about the Jupyter Lab. Through this web-based application, you will understand how to use the WEkEO harmonized data access. You will be able to test codes and workflows, and it's a super environment for training because experts can share codes with comments to explain what they are doing. You will surely find interesting codes related to your needs on the WEkEO GitHub. To finish this WEkEO overview, a word on the virtual machines. So if you apply for the Advanced plan, you will be able to access to your cloud processing resources through the dashboard or by using SSH access. I would like also to refer to different tutorial videos, and especially 2 videos which are highly recommended to discover WEkEO. These videos are available on the WEkEO YouTube channel. Thank you.
Well, thank you for this introduction. We are going to continue now with the introduction to the product offer with Laia Romero. Good morning, Laia.
Can you hear me and hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay. So for the product offer on climate, I'm going to share my screen and we will have a look together at all the products that we have available at WEkEO right now that can be useful for climate studies and how to access them. Let me share my screen. Okay. Please let me know if it's okay or if you see any. Okay, thanks. So this is what we see. I'm going to sign out actually to show you what you can see as a passable user without being registered and what you can access as a registered user. So when you access WEkEO and you're still not registered, you can go to data. In the data tab, this is what you see. These are 2 layers that are displayed by default, but well, the system will recognize the layers that you are used to looking at, and if you start using the platform, these default layers will change for each of you. But if it is your first time, these 2 layers is what you will see. In this case, we have a LAN service layer, this daily leaf area index, which is outside of today's training, and the water velocity, which might be actually interesting. What I want to show you is the way to access the data first. So you click on the plus button, and here you see a list of facets or search criteria. And you can, for instance, check, I want to see C3S climate data. These are the 18 data sets that are available through WEkEO. And we're going to add to map one of the most popular, which is the ERA 5, the on pressure levels. In this case, we add it to the map. And as you can see, this data set is not viewable because we are still working on this aspect, on the viewing the layers, but it is downloadable. So if you click on download, the platform asks you to sign in because you need to be registered for that, and you will see all the subset features that you can actually click on, whatever you're interested in, and then click on request data to download it. I also wanted to say that, well, let me show you one more layer first, and then we will go to the actual download. If you want to see everything that we have on climate, or that it is interesting for climate, you can also write climate or any other albedo or any other variable of your interest in the free text, and you see the subset of layers, and you can also say, let's look at temperature, that some of you might be using for downscaling or to compare reference periods, or I don't know, if you're working on predictions. So you can see everything we have with temperature in it, past and also future. Okay. By clicking on the search fields, you apply or remove the filters. We're going to look at the Sentinel-3 data we have on temperature. As you will see, in this case, we have a level 2 LAN that includes sea and land surface temperature, and we have level 1 and another level 2 that it is only sea surface temperature. I'm going to click on both of them. We add this to map. It is not viewable, and I'm going to add this one to map, which is viewable, so that you see the difference. I'm going to, I don't want to see the seawater velocity or the live area index anymore. So what I see here is 805, sea and land surface temperature. These two are not viewable, and one that is viewable, that is the sea surface temperature over the ocean. And here I can set an area of interest. Going like this. I can actually zoom in this layer. Okay? To see it better. And it is, sorry. And then when I click on download, I can copy paste the area of interest that I selected on the screen. I can copy paste an area of interest that I also select on the screen. As you see, when I change the date in the temporal scale, the platform is updated with the actual information available. Okay? When you share the screen, it is a bit slower than usual, but if you do it on your computers, it will certainly be quicker. So you can copy it from the timeline. And what I wanted to show is that even for those layers that are not viewable, you can copy paste the same area of interest and download everything at once. Okay? You need to click on whatever you're interested in, and then you show the API request if you want, and this is the request that you can copy paste into your code to access this specific subset of data. Okay? When you request data, and I'm going to try with this one. Let's see. Yeah, this was giving, in this case, this is also useful to show. When there is a problem on the data source and the data is not being served, you will get this sort of error, and it will be the same error that you get from your code. But usually all brokers are working, so you try within a couple of minutes, and you will access the data, either through the viewer or through the Jupyter Notebook or through the virtual machines that that we will be showing later on. And you can, this is an example of a completed job that you will be able to access anytime also through the viewer. In this case, it's from a Sentinel-1 data. And I think this is more or less everything that I wanted to show you as the product offer interface in WEkEO.
Okay, Laia, thank you for this presentation. We are going to continue now with the introduction to the cloud processing environment, and it will be Joana Miguens that will explain us how this works.
Joana, are you there? your turn. Huh? Hello, Joana.
Hi, hello, good morning, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear as well?
Yes, I can hear very well.
Perfect. So now it's your turn if you can explain us the cloud processing environment.
Excellent, yes, with pleasure. Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Joana Miguens. I'm part of the technical team of WEkEO. On WEkEO, here on the training, you will be, of course, mainly focused on the Jupyter offer of WEkEO, where you will be able to go through the very, very nice, well-prepared examples of Chris, and access these notebooks on the GitHub and open the WEkEO portal, access the Jupyter Notebook service, and run it for you to understand how to bring meaning out of this data. But from the WEkEO, we will be then after the training, you may have ideas, how am I going to use this data a little bit further? How am I going to create an application? Or how am I going to prototype something to bring some more experiences with this data? And for this, WEkEO offers also a hosted processing, where you will be able to process the data, to process close to the data. So all the data that Laia has been presenting is enormous volumes, petabytes of data, and this is where the hosted processing plays a role to bring your virtual machines in all the environment close to the data. And for this, I will open now just a moment, the page of WEkEO, and I will show you the main steps on how to access the hosted processing and what are the high-level functions that you can do there. Let me share my screen here. Share screen, and I will be sharing the portal of WEkEO. So if you can see on the screen, you'll see here on the very top menu under dashboard, you will see here the several services that WEkEO already has. And on the top, on the left, you will see virtual machines. Once you click on virtual machines, you will be presented with some message informing you how you can ask resources. Once you ask the resources, there will be a flow process to grant you the resources that you can have 3 months for free tier, or also the more advanced usage has already been showed. Once you click on virtual machines, we'll come to a very nice dashboard with the several operations on how you can create virtual machines, on how you can then also have some other services related with your environment, like security, automation, blueprints, deployment, monitoring of your infrastructure. Let me come here to this page where we can see, just a moment, my network is a bit slow, but here you will be exposed exactly here with a very nice overview of the virtual machines that I have already created here. Just to show you shortly, if you click here, you can see that everything comes through with a very nice browser, where you can say, for example, my first VM, my first PM, and you are directly exposed, or which information you need to add here. For example, here on the plan, you will be able to choose the size of your virtual machine. You can choose the version of the operating system. The network will define whether it's a local network or if it's a network exposed to the external internet. The security zone, so if it's a virtual machine that is exposed to only remote access, or if you want to have a web service, for example, and the floating IP, where you can select public IP. If you go through this, you will be able to, in a question of 2 or 3 minutes, ramp up a virtual machine that you can then access remotely, or you can access here also through the browser under console. If you see here, you will see all the settings that we have that you select before to your virtual machine. To have a more deep understanding of what you can do with the hosted processing, you can go here under Docs to Guides. So under Guides, you see here the several operations that you can do on a virtual machine. So adding some more users to your environment, to create and accessing an instance is what I have just now showed you. Here you can see step by step what you would need to configure to come up with your console. Let's see some others, an overview. Besides virtual machine, there is also storage. You can access also object storage, file storage. You can also ramp up and work with your environment through an API. You can extend your virtual machine under your needs, and you can define better the security groups, as we have already spoken. To come back here to the dashboard, this is a brief overview, basically to bring you the idea how you can come through giving some usage from the hosted processing if you come up with some good ideas or projects after the training. Just to also briefly show here that you have already been given WEkEO access to WEkEO. And on this access, let me show here, you will sign how you can sign in. So I signed out before so that I can show you how to sign in. Just a moment, I close here this window now. So you have been granted access to WEkEO. You will come here to sign in. And after you sign in, you will click here, forgot password. And with this link, you will be able to reset your password. This you will receive on your email, an email where you will be then accepting and with the link to your new password. After that, you will be signing in. Just a moment. And you'll be signing in. And you can also afterwards do any updates on your password or on your data. And here under dashboard, you will be able then to access the Jupyter notebooks or the virtual machines, or ask the resources for the virtual machines. So here we are. Exactly. If you have any further questions then on the hosted processing, you can always contact us on the support to the support ticket and make there your questions on the offer. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Joana. But as you say, it is always good to receive technical questions about the cloud environment and the support. So thank you very much. We are going to continue now with Chris Stewart, that he will introduce the Jupyter Notebook Hub environment and exercises focused on climate data.
Thanks, Marta, for the introduction. So to avoid any technical issues, I've pre-recorded the presentation. So I would invite Vincent to now run the presentation. Good morning. My name is Chris Stewart. I work at ECMWF, and today I'm going to introduce to you the Jupyter notebooks that you'll be using for this training. So to access the Jupyter notebooks, first you go to WEkEO, the WEkEO platform, so wekeo.eu, and then you have to sign in. If you haven't already done so, you register, but I think already for the training you have been registered with WEkEO. So you sign in. Then when you sign in, you'll see an option here, go to my dashboard. So when you select this, you arrive at your dashboard, and in your dashboard you have a number of options, including to enter the Jupyter Hub. So this is where you'll find the notebooks for the training. So when you select the Jupyter Hub, then first it asks you to select a server, and there's a dedicated training server which you'll be using for this training. So you'll be directed to that. And then once you're in the server, then you arrive at the Jupyter Lab environment. In this environment, you will see a number of folders. There's a public folder, there's a WEkEO Jupyter Lab folder. So the public and the Jupyter Lab folders, they both contain the training material for this training and also for previous trainings. So if we click on the WEkEO Jupyter Lab, here you see atmosphere, climate, okay, this is for images, also ocean, WEkEO HDA, so this, the WEkEO harmonized data access, and also you'll see a kind of welcome Jupyter notebook. So first of all, if we click on the welcome Jupyter notebook, here it just introduces you to the Jupyter Lab environment. It explains what it is, how you can install software within it, how you can clone repositories from GitHub into this environment. For example, containing all the training material. If you go to the WEkEO GitHub, so just do a Google search for WEkEO GitHub, you will find the page with the repository which contains all of the training material. So this notebook explains how you can clone that into the Jupyter Lab environment. So this has already been done here. And so we have this folder here, which contains all the material in the WEkEO HDA folder. Here you have some notebooks that explain, that describe the harmonized data access API of WEkEO. So this is what you use to access data through WEkEO. So this training is really focused on climate data. The previous trainings focused on atmosphere, and the previous one focused on ocean. But here we're really going to concentrate on climate applications. So if we go into the climate folder, here we see a number of other notebooks. So if I expand this a little bit so you can see the naming. So this WEkEO_climate_training 1 to 4, these contain a series of tutorials that describe how to access data and how to process that data. There's also a notebook here which contains a list of API, HDA, Harmonized Data Access API functions, which you need to access data through WEkEO. So I'm just going to introduce these notebooks one at a time, starting with this first one. This notebook explains how to access data through WEkEO. WEkEO contains satellite data and many products from the environmental Copernicus services. So the Copernicus Climate Change Service, we call that C3S for short, the Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Service, the Marine Environment Monitoring, and the Land Monitoring Services. So we're going to focus on C3S. C3S provides authoritative information on the past, present, and future climate, and it has many different products in its portfolio. So these include satellite and in situ observations, essential climate variables. It includes reanalysis data, seasonal forecasts, climate projections. And I think it's important to mention at this point that the C3S offering on WEkEO is work in progress. We would ask you for the moment to access this data using the standard C3S access mechanism, which is using the climate data store. Eventually, this data will also be on WEkEO, and there are some initial data sets already on WEkEO. And I'm going to now show you how to use WEkEO to access data. Of course, the great advantage of WEkEO is that you can access data from many different sources. But in the next notebook, I'm going to focus on data access using the CDS. So to access data through WEkEO, you have to go through a number of different steps, from searching for the data on the WEkEO platform, to getting an API key, then initializing the data access request, the harmonized data access request, and then finally downloading the data. So I'm going to go through those steps one at a time. The first thing we have to do here is to import the libraries that we need. So I'll run this cell. Then we're going to load the helper functions. So these helper functions are in this HDA API functions Python file. Now, to search for data on WEkEO, what you do is you go to the WEkEO platform, and here you go to data. And then what you can do is you click on the plus sign here, and here you see a list of all of the data available. So there is a filter here. If you select C3S climate, then here you see all of the C3S data that's on WEkEO. Remember, for the moment, please access this data using the CDS, but in the future, you will be able to access the data also through here. So what we'll do is we'll go to one of these data sets. So let's have a look at the sea level graded data for the global ocean. So here, if we click on details, we get more information about this data set, including the dataset ID, which is important if we want to access this data through the Jupyter Lab. If we now select Add to Map, then we'll view this data set as a layer. And then once we've done this, we can click on this icon here to look at download options. So here you can specify a time period. So let's say we're interested in 2019, in August and the 15th. And let's say we want the format to be a zip file. So here we can select request data, or we can select show API request. And if we do this, then if we select this block of code, and we copy it to the clipboard, and we go back to the Jupyter lab, we can paste this. So we can paste this into a cell here. Okay, so this is in JSON format, and this describes the data set and the time period that we're interested in. So another thing you have to do is you have to take the dataset ID, okay, the dataset ID, which you could find in this, it was in the information section here. So here's the dataset ID, okay, and it should also be in this description here, okay, the dataset ID. So we take that dataset ID and we create a variable with this because we'll need this later. Okay, so we run this. Then once you've taken this information in JSON format, you can either paste it into this cell here, or you can create a JSON file out of it, and then you can use this this code block here to read in that JSON file. So we have included the JSON file here. It's this file, sea-level data description.json. So you can choose one option or the other. Okay, so either this, or we can use this this block here. So once we found the data set that we're interested in, we then have to get a WEkEO API key. So this key can be found using your username and password. Once you have that, then a key is generated. So as I've already run this prior to the training, I'm going to skip this step. The next thing to do is to initialize the HDA API request. So for that, first we'll specify our download directory path. Then we can initialize a dictionary with the init function. So this function is actually in the HDA API functions file. Then we can request an access token. So by the way, the API, API key is valid for 1 hour. So you need to, every time you want to request data, you need to go through these steps. Then we can accept the terms and conditions. And then finally, well, actually not finally, but then we can initiate the request by assigning a job ID. So we run this cell here. Then we can build a list of file names to be ordered and downloaded. Okay, then we need to also create an order ID for each of these files to be downloaded. You don't need to worry so much about these steps. It may seem quite a long process, but these functions are all available in this HDA API function. So you really just need to run each one in turn. The only thing you really need is to specify the data you want by doing a search on WEkEO and copying that block of code. Then you need to put in your username and password to generate a key, and those are really the only inputs you need. And of course to specify a path for the downloaded file. But these we can just run, so one after the other. And then here finally we can download the requested data. So we can then run this this line of code here, and it should download the data. Okay, so now you should see the data has been downloaded into your Jupyter Lab environment. So now what we can do is, now we have the data, we can do whatever we want with this. So we notice that the data is a zip file. So the first thing to do is to extract it. And the extracted file is a netcdf file in this case. So this is a commonly used file format for array-oriented scientific data. So we'll run this to extract the netcdf file. And then we can read this NetCDF file into an Xarray dataset. So Xarray is a very popular library, Python library for multi-dimensional arrays. So here we're creating a dataset from this NetCDF file. And then if we view this dataset, then we see we have a number of coordinates, data variables, and attributes. So what we'll do here is we will convert the dataset to a data array. So this is another object in Xarray, which enables you to look at one variable. So a dataset contains many variables, but a data array allows you to focus on one variable, and it facilitates analysis of that variable. So we can see the list of variables here, okay? And if we look at the documentation, we can find out more information about these different variables. So we're going to have a look at the absolute dynamic topography, which is a sea surface height above a geoid. And this is called ADT. So here we'll create a data array out of this variable. And then finally, we can use the plot function of Xarray just to create a very simple plot. So, and that's what we'll do here. Okay, so this was just a very simple overview of how you can take data from WEkEO and read it and create a very simple plot. So in the next notebooks, we will do a little bit more analysis on this data. So let's have a look at notebook number 2. This notebook shows how to access data using the Climate Data Store API, and it also goes through a number of different processing steps that you can apply on this data. I won't go into too much detail of notebooks 2 to 4. You can work on these in your own time in the coming weeks, but I will show you how to access the data using the CDS, which in some cases is similar to WEkEO. You still go to the web interface, you search for data, you copy a chunk of code, which you can then apply to obtain the data using the API. So what we need to do, first of all, you'll need to register on the CDS. There's a link that shows how to do this. So there's a link here, and this explains how to use the CDS API and how to register and create an API key, which, by the way, lasts for more than an hour, so it's permanent. Once you have it, you can always use it. Another thing we need to do is to install the CDS API. So this is very easy to install. You can use pip install. This you can run from a terminal window, or you can, if you put the exclamation mark here, you can run it from within a Jupyter Notebook. So here we import the various libraries we need for this notebook. Then once you have registered on the Climate Data Store, then you can run this these few lines of code to append your user ID and the API key to a .cds API RC file that you use whenever you're querying data on the CDS. So this code here will automatically append these lines of code into your file. If you're using Linux, if you're using Windows, you can do this manually, but this is all explained in this link here. So once you've done that, then searching for data and downloading data is very similar to the way we saw on WEkEO. So we go to the web interface. So we can go to the web interface here. And here you can apply a filter to search for a particular data set, or if you want to search for all data, you can just click on search. And here you'll see all of the C3S data listed that's available on the Climate Data Store. We can apply filters here. So let's say, for example, we know that we're interested in reanalysis data, then we select reanalysis. And here we can find, for example, the regional reanalysis. We can find the global reanalysis, the ERA 5 data, over land for hourly or monthly averaged. So we're going to look at the ERA 5 monthly average data on single levels from 1979 to present. So when we select that data set, here we can find information about it. We can find the documentation here, the quality assessment. And if we select the download data, then here we can apply filters in very much the same way as we did in WEkEO to download the data. So here we're going to select the monthly average reanalysis. We will select the 2-meter temperature, and we can deselect the various other parameters. These are just the results of the settings from a previous search I applied. So here we select all every year. Here we will select every month. So first we clear all, then we select all. As this is monthly average data, we can only have one time available. And here we will select the whole available region. So we will not apply a geographical subset. We can choose between two different file formats, between GRIB or NetCDF. Here we'll choose NetCDF. And then here we can, if we select submit form, then we can download the data using the web interface. Or if we select show API request, then just as in the WEkEO environment, we can copy this block of code and we can copy it to the clipboard and paste this into a cell here in order to download the data using the CDS API from a Jupyter Notebook. So this way we do not need to go through the web interface. And here, if you want to make any changes, you can change the parameters directly in this block of code. So you can change the years, the month, the time, the format, and so on. Okay, so we'll run this. And if we run this, then we will download the data. So I've already downloaded the data here. So what we can now do is we can look at this data in more detail and we can do some analysis on this data. I won't do this now because this you can do in your own time, but I'll just show you the kind of processing that you can apply. So for example, you can view and you can plot data. You can look at a particular reference period. So a common reference period is from 1981 to 2010. You can calculate the mean in that time. Then you can use that to calculate anomalies. If you subtract that from the values, then you can plot those anomalies. You can look at trends. Here you can see very clearly the trend in global temperatures. You can take a subset over certain areas, for example, over the Arctic, and you can plot monthly time series or yearly time series if you want to remove the seasonal variations, or you can look at seasonal time series and compare different seasons and look at trends. So this is notebook number 2. Notebook number 3 focuses on extremes and climate extremes, and it takes the case of the very high temperatures that were experienced in the north of France and in other regions in September this year. So here we will look at the values of the temperature in reanalysis data, and we'll compare that with the long-term average. And this you can apply all of these steps in your own time. Then the 4th notebook focuses on creating a climate index. So here we take various different parameters, we put them together and we calculate an index, and then we will produce a map of that index. And here we're using regional reanalysis data. Then you will compare the regional reanalysis data with global reanalysis, and you'll compare the results. So please take your time to run these notebooks in the coming weeks. And if you have any questions, then please let us know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris, for this presentation. Now we are going to start the Q&A session. We have many questions in the chat already. So now we have here also Joana and Chris that will help us answering the questions. So I'm going to start with the first question about data in general, and I think we can provide a specific answer also regarding climate, and it's this one. So what is the range of years that WEkEO can provide data in the past and the future?
Hello. So the data that WEkEO can provide the data. This, of course, depends for which data set you will be looking into. What WEkEO does is to access the broader possible amount of timeline that the data set has. So, for example, for the main data sets, as on the satellite data directly, you have the full repository possible to access. And regarding the data for this training from CDS, the Climate Data Store, the ones available on WEkEO, also you have exactly the same access as you have on CDS through the harmonized data access of WEkEO or through the portal, so the viewer that Laia has showed. You also have the access to the full timeline. So this definitely depends on the service that is provided. For example, from the Copernicus service, some of them has really long, like from 19 something until you can have some others with forecasts, so that goes a little bit to the future. But in general, the access in terms of the timeline, it's very extended to its maximum.
Okay, thank you. Also, a similar question, and I think it's from the same person, is this one related to specific for climate change? Like if there is, for how many years can data be predicted?
Okay, maybe I can answer this one. So through C3S, you can access different products, including climate projections, seasonal forecasts, in the future also decadal forecasts. So the climate projections can go, up to a century. I mean, they go many years into the future, but they're just probabilities. So it doesn't provide very accurate. It's just a kind of projection into the long-term future. Then you also have seasonal forecasts that go just into the very short-term future. And as I mentioned before, in the future we'll also have decadal forecasts. So, but as I said, they just give probabilities. And they're different scenarios. So for the projections, you have different RC representation concentration pathways. You have different scenarios. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your answers. We have some more questions. So related to the download of data. So maybe Joana, you can provide this answer. So the size limit for a download in a single request.
Okay, so the limit of the size of the download, in general, there is no real limit. So if, for example, you want to access a long range of Sentinel-3 data, for example, you can go and download very, very long, very long, so many files in a row. But of course, this depends a little bit on your use case. So if we are going through the portal, you will need to click around, and you can only download one at a time. If you are going to a virtual machine, for example, and if you want to download it directly there, it also depends on your process, but it's always better to have some kind of shorter downloads each time you are doing it, so you can do a process that somehow does not do it in parallel, because it can also somehow stuck your process and full your resources. But in general, there are some limits in a certain specific data sets that are also related with the limits on the access on the data source, for example, from Siemens. But on the data that you will be using on this training from climate, there are actually no limits. But in any case, we always recommend to put some limits, especially in terms of dates, to make sure that you can control the process that you are doing for that end.
Okay, thank you. Another question related to the download of data. So where is the data downloaded? I suppose it refers to like locally, like not in the cloud, but maybe Joana, you can explain better.
Yeah, so during the training, you'll be running the notebooks that Chris has presented. And when you are downloading this is going directly to your Jupyter Notebook environment. And there you can either keep it or not. It's your decision. There is a limit of 8 gigabytes on your environment. And there is also some shared files on the public folder. And these ones does not count for the 8 gigabytes, and you can access it anytime.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We have more questions related to the download of data. So let's see another one. So this one is about the extension of the files once Sentinel data is downloaded.
Yes, so the files always keep their original format, and you can download it, and you
Joana, there is a
can
problem of sound. Can you just cut off your camera, please?
So maybe I can step in while
sure.
while Joana has some
Please.
technical.
While we wait for Joana.
Yeah, so Sentinel data has different kinds of file formats. Sentinel-2, for example, is in JP2 format, but it's all the data is packaged into a kind of directory structure. So yeah, I mean, different, and then you have the metadata, which is in different file formats. But you can read this data. There are different ways to read the data. So and some of the example notebooks show you how to, for example, there are some notebooks which show you how to read Sentinel-3 data, and you can find that in the amongst the training files.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to show a question much more related to the climate part and the C3S, and its relationship with WEkEO. And in the meantime, if Joana is not coming back, maybe Chris, you can answer this one. So regarding the CDS toolbox editor, is this tool a mix between Jupyter and WEkEO? Which of the three tools should I use, for example, to extract a 5-time series for a list of given coordinates and download the result?
Okay, yes. So the CDS toolbox editor is another tool that you can use to read and process the data. I would say that which tool to use depends on what you're most familiar with. So the toolbox facilitates processing the data if you're not as familiar with. I mean, if you want to use the functions that are provided, so it's based on Python, but it's somehow easier than just writing your own Python scripts from scratch. If you're using Jupyter, then you have to write them from scratch, but we have given you a number of examples in the notebooks on this training and also from the previous trainings. So the toolbox is not Jupyter, and it's not WEkEO either. It's just another tool for processing the data that somehow facilitates processing the data. So whichever tool you use depends on your familiarity with programming.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another question that's related to the Jupyter notebooks. And if it's possible to use the plots created in Jupyter Notebook with WEkEO in research papers.
So yes is the answer, and please do. So it would be great if you could use it, if you could publish your work, and yeah, that's definitely encouraged.
Okay, thank you. We have one question much more related. Well, another one, sorry, to the Jupyter Hub. So if there is an R kernel for the WEkEO Jupyter Hub.
Currently, there is only a Python kernel on the WEkEO Jupyter Hub.
Okay.
If this is really interesting for you, you could also ask directly to create a ticket and say that you would be interested to use the R kernel, and it would be taken into account to be included in the upcoming versions of the WEkEO Jupyter Hub.
Okay, thank you. There is a question related to the API and how to use it, and it has been explained during the webinar, but maybe we can show it again and give a very quickly reminder to everyone. So where is the API code pasted? So if you can just briefly explain again.
Okay, so what maybe I can share my screen and try to go back into. You just have to give me a minute, though. Yeah, it'll take me some time to get back into the environment. Okay. So now my server is just starting up. Yeah, I had switched it off because having multiple windows open, sometimes I have some issues with my computer, but hopefully now it's working. And then once I'm in, I can just show you where you put the how you do the where you put that block of code from for the data access request. It's actually quite simple. Okay, it's taking a while to start up.
On the GitHub, where you share the Jupyter notebooks, we also have there a file for presenting your the API, right? The request.
Yeah, it's in the notebook. Yeah, so
yeah.
If this is taking too long, then I mean, I would suggest going through the notebook, and if you have any issues, then you can submit a question to the Google form, and then we can reply to you there if you have any particular technical issues.
Okay, maybe
I would suggest to do that, because this will. Oh, here we are. We're in. Okay, perfect. So here you have the data access Jupyter notebook, the first Jupyter notebook, and here what you do. Okay, I'll try not to scroll too fast. Here is where you paste in the block of code which you get having carried out a search on the WEkEO platform. Okay, so you find the data you're interested in, and that data is in this format, the form of a JSON file, and you have all of the details here. So the date range, the dataset ID, and the information you need to then retrieve that data using the harmonized data access API. So this will then go and find the data wherever it is, and it will download it. And it will download it for you. So you just need to, you can get this from the WEkEO platform. So when you click on, I think, show API request or something, then you can copy that and you paste it into there, or you have it in a JSON format, and then you can read it in using this code block here. So I don't know if that's clear.
Yes, I think it will help. Otherwise, participants that still have more questions related to these or other topics, they can keep contacting us. Fabrice has also sent here a link with a Google form that can also be used for this training. And I think we have time still for a couple of more questions. So maybe I can just show some more questions that we have here. So related to Sentinel data, is it accessible in near real time?
I don't know, Joanna, do you want to? I can answer, or maybe you want to answer?
Yeah, I can answer. Yeah, we can complement maybe. I start by saying that yes, in the Sentinel data you can have you have near real time, and so yes, it is. Chris, do you have something else to add?
I think that's all there is to say.
So as soon as it is available on the original dissemination services of Sentinel data, it is as soon as you can access it on the WEkEO also.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And there are more questions related to Sentinel data. One of them is about Sentinel-1. It seems that only V8 and V polarizations are available.
Ah, super. Merci beaucoup. J'arrive. Solange, le matelas, il arrive. Il est là.
Joanna or Chris, can you please answer this question?
Yes, so regarding the Sentinel-1 data, actually we have more than one source of the Sentinel-1 data. And for exactly whether we have these available, the HH I would need to check. I do believe that we have it fully, the Sentinel-1, but I'd like to give you a more precise answer to this, so we can see who raised this question and reply, or directly to Google form can then have a more precise answer. But I would also recommend you to see on the 2 entries of Sentinel-1 data that we have on the catalog, and try to search for this HH. Good, thank you.
Thank you. We have also a specific question related to Sentinel-1. Maybe you can just display it and let's see. Otherwise, we can just do the same. It's related to the latency before the GRT data appears on the server.
Yeah, so here we have 2 questions. On the Sentinel-1 is how quick it is available to be accessed through the API on WEkEO. And this is quite quick. So for the Sentinel-1 is almost as quick as it is available on the direct dissemination channels of the Sentinel-1 data. And regarding the latency, it really depends. It really depends where you are. If you are trying to access it on the Jupyter Notebooks, the Jupyter Notebooks are installed directly in our infrastructure, so this is very close to the data. But you can also be accessing on your virtual machines. So if it's on the virtual machines, this is local access, so it's very, very quick. If you are using the Jupyter Notebooks, which are done for a first, let's say, experience of the users with the data, and also an introductory uptake of the methods to use the data. Here it's slightly slower, but this is just related with the way that is implemented. So if you do access directly from a virtual machine, this is very, very quick.
Okay, thank you.
As if you'd be having a storage next to your virtual machine.
Okay, we have another question related to what we explained before, what Chris explained before, related to the publication of results. So maybe you can provide more details about it. Concerning the use of WEkEO results in publications, how that should be acknowledged.
I would ask Joana to answer that question.
Yeah, this is a very good question, actually. On WEkEO, we also have a service that is called WEkEO Drive. On the WEkEO Drive, so if you log into WEkEO, on the left, we saw this dashboard where we can access the Jupyter lab, and we also can access the virtual machines. There you also see an entry called WEkEO Drive. So it's similar to the Google Drive. You basically can share files, or, for example, as an image or a notebook also with the other users, or also to someone outside through a direct link to an email. And here it's a way that WEkEO has chosen to have these results publication functionality.
Okay. Is there something else more that you would like to add related to this one? Is it fine? Okay, we continue then. This one is about the possible use of WEkEO data and connect it to augmented reality. Is that possible?
Well, I guess that depends on you can do whatever you want with the data. I mean, as far as I'm aware, there's no pre-built functionality to create an app with augmented reality. But if you want to create one, then great, please do, and please share.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good part, Chris, that you mentioned that part of the sharing. Yeah, because soon, by the end of the year, it is planned to have also some kind of marketplace where you'll be able to share also your applications if you developed something on WEkEO. And yeah, so there are no limitations for creativity on how to use the WEkEO data.
Okay, perfect. There is one last question. Maybe it's too much specific, or maybe it should be addressed through the user support, but I show it here because it's related to Jupyter Notebook. So is this kind of error? I don't know if it's a common error. Maybe Chris or Joana, if you would like to clarify a bit.
I think this should be referred to someone who can really look into this, because I don't know the answer.
Okay, no problem. I mean,
yeah, definitely. I think through the user support, go to the portal, click support. There you can type directly in a text box the arrow. And so it would be nice to have not only the arrow, but also the steps before, like what did you run, so that we can more easily support you with this.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's always useful to remember that user support can be contacted for these kind of questions. And I think we are at the end of this Q&A session.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you, Chris. It was very, very useful. So I hope you enjoy your webinar session. What happened next? Give me 1 second. I have to upload one final slide. So you will receive a thank you email from our webinar platform with the recording of the webinar. The recording of the webinar will be available soon on the WEkEO YouTube channel. After the thank you email, you will receive later this afternoon this email with all the material needed for your practical homework. So the recording, the tutorial playlist, you can find it on our YouTube channel, all the presentations, the famous access to the Jupyter Lab environment dedicated to the training. It is explained here. I could see there were some issues in the chat. No worries, do not hesitate to write an email to the support. I could see as well there were very late registration today. So people concerned by late registration don't have access to this dedicated Jupyter Lab. So please write an email to training@wekeo.eu to request your access to this dedicated Jupyter Lab. Okay? One more thing, as Marta and Fabrice said, there is the link to the question form. Each time you need to ask your question, do not hesitate to use this question form, and the expert will answer to you. You will receive as well an invitation to the debriefing session, so please register. I think that's it for me. I say thank you to everyone. Enjoy your practical homeworks, and see you the 3rd of December for the debriefing session. Thank you very much.